In the expansive realm of DC Comics, where heroes and villains collide, Man-Bat emerges as a fascinating and complex character within Batman's rogues gallery. Dr. Kirk Langstrom, also known as Man-Bat, stands out as a prime example of a supervillain born out of a failed scientific experiment, a recurring theme in the comic book world. First introduced in 1970s Detective Comics number 400, Man-Bat has become an iconic adversary for Batman, entwining himself in the Dark Knight's narrative for decades. With a tragic backstory and a rich history in comic books and television adaptations, Man-Bat has undergone numerous story arcs and transformations that have left an indelible mark on his character sets. Man-Bat, apart from other villains, is the striking contrast he presents to Batman. Notably, his name is a literal reversal of Batman's moniker, embodying a twisted reflection of the Caped Crusader himself. From sympathetic anti-hero to monstrous villain, Man-Bat's journey is power-packed with surprising twists. But in this video, we will solely focus on finding out what exactly sets this vicious anti-hero apart from all the other characters in the DC universe. So, without further ado, let's delve right into the anatomical prowess of the enigmatic Man-Bat. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Man-Bat? What does Man-Bat look like? Initially introduced as an enemy of Batman, Man-Bat has evolved over the years to become a sympathetic villain or anti-hero, apart from being a fascinating and visually striking character of the DC Comics universe. Before he turned into this hideous entity, Man-Bat went by the name Robert Kirk Langstorm, a scientist who grew up with a severe obsession with bats and believed that he could spearhead marvelous medical innovations by doing an intricate study on bats. As an adult, he met a woman named Francine, and right after they got engaged, Kirk developed an eerie medical condition which progressively affected his ability to hear. To seek a cure, a distraught Kirk started experimenting with the DNA of a bat, which apparently worked in his favor in the beginning, until it did not. But gradually the side effects of his experiment caught up to him, bringing a devastating result and transforming him into a haunting blend of human and bat features, creating a distinct and fearsome presence. Standing at an imposing height, he retained a humanoid form with an athletic build. The most striking aspect of his appearance was his bat-like features, which reflected the nature of his transformation. Man-Bat's head was that of a grotesque hybrid. His face was elongated, resembling that of a large bat, with sharp pointed ears extending upward from the sides. Like a bat, his eyes were large and luminous, glowing with a fierce intensity. Between his eyes, a narrow furrowed brow line accentuated his predatory gaze, exuding an air of pure menace. And if that were not terrifying enough, protruding from the sides of Man-Bat's head were grotesque, membranous wings, granting him the ability to fly effortlessly through the night skies, soaring above the city as a terrifying aerial beast. The wingspan was considerable, with leathery veined membranes stretched between elongated finger-like bones, giving them an eerie and macabre appearance. Like the anatomy of a bat, all of Man-Bat's body was covered in a coarse fur, which served to insulate him during flight and provided a tactile connection to his animalistic nature. This fur varied in color, typically ranging from deep shades of brown or black, mimicking the hues of a bat's natural camouflage, further adding a textural dimension to his appearance, enhancing the overall impression of a monstrous, yet captivating creature. As Man-Bat's name suggests, he possessed enhanced strength, agility, and speed, allowing him to navigate the urban landscape with unparalleled grace and efficiency, which, when combined with his acute sonar sense, made him powerful in combat situations. His sharp, elongated claws were capable of rendering through solid materials, while his fangs and bite carried a lethal potency. Safe to say that Kirk's humanoid, bat hybrid form was a true symbol of primal and animalistic nature, constantly juxtaposed with occasional glimpses of the man beneath the monstrous exterior, making Man-Bat an enduring and compelling figure in the world of comics. Transformation process. From man to beastly Man-Bat. So the transformation process of Kirk Langstrom into the Man-Bat was a harrowing and gradual progression, marked by the effects of the serum he developed to grant humans a bat's acute sonar sense, seeking to overcome his own hearing loss, and to overall enhance human sensory capabilities. Initially, Langstrom's intention was to utilize the serum to give humans the bat's remarkable sonar sense. However, as mentioned before, after testing the extract on himself, the results were far from what he expected. Instead of gaining heightened senses, Langstrom's body underwent a horrifying metamorphosis into an anthropomorphic half-bat hybrid. The transformation was not instantaneous but occurred gradually, allowing Langstrom to witness the frightening changes his body underwent. As the serum took effect, Langstrom's physical appearance began to shift, with his human features contorting into a monstrous hybrid of man and bat. His entire body mirrored the nocturnal nature of bats. At the sides of his head, his human ears gave way to pointed bat-like ears, further emphasizing his transformation into a creature of the night. Accompanying all the physical changes, Langstrom's mind and behavior were also affected. In his transformed state, he lost much of his human sentience, succumbing to animalistic instincts and acting purely on primal drives. This loss of control added to the tragedy of his transformation, as he struggled to retain his humanity while grappling with the animalistic urges that consumed him. Throughout his various appearances, Langstrom would experience relapses, shifting back and forth between his human form and the man-bat persona. Each relapse brought about a renewed cycle of transformation, with Langstrom's humanity slipping away as the monstrous man-bat emerged once again. Despite the challenges posed by his transformation, Langstrom would occasionally regain control and utilize his powers for good, fighting alongside Batman and other heroes. Even though Batman tried his best to create a potent antidote to balance out Langstrom's condition, he kept faltering time and again. While initially portrayed as a savage and feral beast, Man-Bat gradually gained control over his transformations and emerged as a complex character, sometimes using his powers for good, revealing a glimmer of humanity amidst the monstrous visage. Langstrom's complex journey of transformation, relapse, and redemption is a testament of a compelling narrative of inner struggle and the battle between man and beast. Can anyone transform into Man-Bat without the serum? We already know that Kirk Langstrom initially relied on the serum he created to trigger his transformation. However, during the Batman Battle for the Cowl storyline, a significant development occurred that allowed Kirk to access his Man-Bat form without the serum. In a desperate situation where Dr. Phosphorus kidnapped his wife, Francine, to lure him into a trap and capture him, Kirk learned how to voluntarily trigger the transformation himself without the need of the serum. He discovered that the formula was not a permanent part of his biology, but rather something he could tap into when necessary. Motivated by his love for Francine and willing to do anything to save her, Kirk unlocked that ability to transform into Man-Bat at will and defeated the evil Dr. Phosphorus, ultimately saving Francine. This breakthrough allowed Kirk to bypass the need for the serum, granting him the freedom to transform into his monstrous alter ego without relying on external substances. It's worth noting that the transformation into Man-Bat without the serum came with dire consequences. Kirk experienced the repercussions of transforming at will, which led to him running away from his wife and friends, perhaps out of concern for their safety or his inability to control his bestial instincts. So it is safe to say that Man-Bat finally discovered the ability to trigger his transformation at will without completely relying on the serum. Can Man-Bat communicate with local bats? In a remarkable display of connection and communication, Man-Bat possesses the ability to empathically reach out to the local bat population and enlist their assistance. Through this unique power, he can establish a telepathic link with bats in his vicinity, enabling him to convey his intentions and rally their support. With this empathic connection established, Man-Bat can easily call upon the bats, who respond with a remarkable level of organization and coordination, using their natural instincts and flight capabilities to swarm his targets. A great idea of this particular ability was seen in the Hunt story arc of The Outsiders comic book issue 23, where Creeper, Katana, and Halo tracked down Killer Croc but encountered Man-Bat, who was under the implication that they were sent by his wife Francine in order to find him and save him. In order to send a message to his wife that he had no wish to be saved or found and wished only to spend his life in his bestial form, Man-Bat engaged in a fight with Katana and Creeper, who tried to capture him before they got to Croc. Soon a swarm of bats started attacking Katana and Creeper, biting and gnawing at their skin, as Man-Bat laughed at their misery and talked about how he had summoned every type of bat in Louisiana for dinner, until Halo cut through the swarm of bats with her light, saving both Creeper and Katana from the viscous attack. Man-Bat had also mentioned about his friendship with bats in many story arcs, showcasing his deep connection to the animal kingdom, specifically his affinity with bats. By utilizing his empathic reach to communicate with bats, Man-Bat taps into their collective intelligence and harnesses their innate strengths. This symbiotic relationship not only allows him to operate with greater efficiency, but also gives him an upper hand in ambushing his opponents and suffocating them with a million feral bats. Can Man-Bat reproduce? Despite his monstrous appearance and animalistic nature, Man-Bat did have a family and children with his wife, Francine. The Langstrom's first child, Becky Langstrom, was born completely normal, unaffected by Kirk's transformation into Man-Bat. However, the circumstances took a peculiar turn when Kirk began using the Man-Bat serum again, with the chemicals still in his body. It was during this time that Kirk and Francine conceived their second child, Aaron Langstrom, who was born as a Man-Bat creature. As Kirk's relapses continued and his transformation into Man-Bat became more frequent, it placed a strain on his relationship with Francine, and the responsibility of raising their two children fell primarily on her shoulders. The Langstroms' family dynamics undoubtedly faced a fair share of challenges and adjustments due to Kirk's dual nature. Nevertheless, because of being part human, Kirk Langstrom was very much capable of procreating, even though the chemical residues from the Man-Bat serum in his blood carried the risk of having devastating side effects on his child, who was naturally born of the same nature as him, as seen in Aaron Langstrom's case. Is he immortal? Before we dive into this question, it should be kept in mind that the Man-Bat Serum was solely created to give bat-like superpowers, or at least allow humans to have super-sonar sense. It had no intention of adding immortality into the mix. Apart from that, in the Detective Comics #1040, Kirk Langstrom, aka Man-Bat, faced a tragic demise. He flew to Gotham City in search of his wife, Francine, but Batman tracked him down. Then, surprisingly, Kirk revealed to Batman that a demonic force had been following him from the Tower of Fate, unbeknownst to the Dark Knight. Tormented by this demonic entity, Kirk struggled to contain it within himself. However, the force fed on his fears and eventually burst out of his chest, manifesting in the material world. The demon boasted about spreading its offspring and feeding on the fears of Gotham, posing a grave threat to the city. Despite being fatally wounded by the demon's emergence, Kirk found the strength to confront the creature. Refusing to succumb to fear any longer, he managed to contain the demonic force within himself, preventing it from spreading and causing further harm. However, the process left Kirk with severe injuries, leaving a smoldering hole in his chest that drained him of his remaining life force. In his final moments, Kirk implored Batman to keep the truth of what happened to him a secret, as the knowledge of the demon's existence could potentially bring it back. Only Batman, with his unwavering fearlessness, could bear the burden of knowing Kirk's fate. With his dying breath, Man-Bat entrusted Batman with this secret and passed away in Batman's arms. So sadly enough, the Man-Bat Serum, which granted Kirk his transformative powers, did not grant him immortality or the protection towards this demonic force. Does he have any weakness? Despite his interesting roster of powers and unique abilities, Man-Bat is not devoid of his Achilles heel. No doubt Man-Bat's hearing is exceptionally acute, but it also makes him vulnerable to loud noises. Sudden and loud sounds can cause him significant pain and disorientation, leaving him temporarily incapacitated and susceptible to capture or manipulation. This sensitivity can be triggered by specific devices or weapons designed to emit high-frequency or intense sounds, effectively exploiting his weakness and impairing his ability to fight back. In addition to this, Man-Bat exhibits a heightened sensitivity to bright light. He prefers to operate in darker locations, as exposure to intense illumination can be overwhelming for him. This sensitivity to light can disrupt his focus and hinder his effectiveness in combat, as it can disorient and temporarily blind him, giving adversaries an advantage. Now, Batman, being well aware of Man-Bat's weaknesses, has utilized this knowledge to capture him in the past. For example, Batman has been known to use specialized sonar pulse weapons or create intense bursts of light to disorient Man-Bat, allowing for a physical takedown or capture. In the first issue of Man-Bat, we witness Batman burst into Kirk Langstrom's home armed with a sonar pulse weapon. The high-pitched noise emitted by the weapon disorients Kirk, giving Batman the opportunity to tackle him. This strategic use of sound disruption takes advantage of Man-Bat's vulnerability, allowing Batman to gain complete control over the situation and rendering Man-Bat's animalistic prowess quite useless. Honestly, the entire story of Man-Bat is really unfortunate. This is a character that barely had control over his predatory instincts, and for no fault of his own. Before turning into Man-Bat, Kirk had a fulfilling life and a happy family. He was a nice person too, but I guess an unhealthy obsession with anything at all would lead to one's inevitable doom. Throughout his journey, Man-Bat has grappled with relapses, fought against his own instincts, and even faced the torment of demonic forces that fed on his fear till the very end. Even after gaining control over his instincts as Man-Bat, Kirk made sure to keep his family out of harm's way and feared that he might hurt them, so he himself stayed away. Nonetheless, in his death, he found redemption, saving the world from the true darkness of fear. And now that we have covered almost every intricate detail of Man-Bat's physiological feats, we come to the very end of this video. Please do not forget to mention your thoughts and opinions on this intriguing character in the comment box below.